Don't be scared, Susan.
Oh boy, Evil Dead Burn is a crazy gore fest, and I actually loved it. Yes, Sebastian Vaniček took things a little too far, but hey, I feed on horror movies and I got exactly what I was expecting. In fact, even if I don't stress on the extreme bloodshed and gruesome kills, the film is still a great watch because it actually tries to put in some backstory to why a house suddenly started crawling with Deadites. Now, I read the reviews before going in and I knew there would be a post-credit scene, but holy crap, I had no idea Vaniček was saving the biggest shock for last. I know many of you already know where I'm going with this, but for those who are yet to watch the movie, this one's going to have some major spoilers. Okay, let's break down what the very last clip of Evil Dead Burn actually means. The post-credits scene in question, which is basically an Easter egg from the last movie, Evil Dead Rise, has sparked a huge debate on the internet, with some claiming it has butchered the very basis and logic of the Evil Dead universe, and how Deadites can be annihilated. But before I go into it, one thing was pretty clear in Vaniček's Evil Dead, a thin string of continuation from Rise. Hardcore fans recognized the drenched Deadite from the trailer itself, and for those of you who missed it, that was Jessica. Hey dude, it's perfectly fine to not know who that horrifying looking woman was, because this new era of Evil Dead is supposedly working with standalone films. I'm not sure how strong that claim is anymore, but for what it's worth, Jessica trying to grab a character and drown him underwater reminded me of Jason. Anyway, so who is Jessica? In Evil Dead Rise, the opening sequence showed us an unseen force moving through a forested area till it finally reached the lake, and we see Teresa, Jessica's cousin, and though at first we are misled that it was a drone, we all knew what it really was. Jessica's boyfriend, Caleb, comes in, and we learn that Jessica is unwell. When Teresa went back to the cabin to check on her, she was sleeping on the bed when out of nowhere she started shaking and reading passages from Wuthering Heights, which conveniently says, "Let me in." And in no time, we see her face is pale, reddish eyes, who scalped Teresa, and by the time she came before Caleb, we knew that she was a Deadite. Jessica killed Caleb, and then the Deadite Jessica levitated over the lake. That's all we got before the movie began, following the story of two estranged sisters, Ellie and Beth, which I'll come to later. But at the end of the movie, we see her again, this time as a normal young girl, bags in hand, getting ready for a trip. Unfortunately, she happened to be in the same building where the entire Deadite saga happened in the movie, and Jessica walked through the same garage where the blood-soaked climax took place to get to her car. But the moment she got close to the site of where the Deadites were killed, all the blood and pieces spattered. An invisible power rushed towards her, and he screamed. Yep, she was possessed right before she drove off to the cabin, and that's how the movie worked as a wraparound. The last scene connected back to the first scene. When Evil Dead Burn started, the opening sequence took place in a lake too, and made people seriously reconsider fishing. It established that it was the same lake and that Jessica's Deadite now possessed it. She once again killed two friends brutally before attacking the protagonist, Alice's husband Will, who crashed his car after seeing Jessica standing in the middle of the road. After the accident, Jessica's head tore apart from her body and rolled over on the road, where she uttered the infamous chant, "Kunda, Kunda, Anstrada, Montose, Kanda." And Will's car burnt up in flames. That was pretty much her job in this movie, to kickstart the Deadite infestation and possess Will's body during his final moments. Now, if you're wondering why Will, let's just say there's a lot of family baggage, quite literally in this case, which befell the later generations. Using Jessica in the first part can be seen as an homage to the last movie, because Vaniček himself said that though his movie will be completely different, he wanted to respect what Lee Cronin did with Rise. Moreover, Tapert suggested Vaniček to bring in past elements by saying, "You have to connect back to Evil Dead Rise somehow a little bit and push forward the lore of the book. What is the goal of the people with the book, the professors and all that?" So he had to carry the ball and move those things down the field a little bit, and that was a challenge with that movie for him. Coming back to Evil Dead Burn, most of the movie took place at the Price's family summer home, where Alice went for her husband's last rites. However, from the beginning you'll get the idea that both Will and his parents are messed up. The only people Alice got along with in that family was Will's younger brother Joseph and his wife. The movie wastes no time in telling us that Will has become a Deadite, that too a burnt one who first possessed his father and killed the worker at the funeral home. Then the Deadite curse spread instantly, and people began turning left and right, till Alice managed to find the one thing that could kill Deadites, a Kandarian dagger, and emerged as the sole survivor. Amidst Papa Deadite and Mama Deadite crawling at inhuman speed and Alice's sister-in-law drinking molten wax, a subplot ran in the movie which gave us some lore about how the Kandarian dagger ended up in the Price family, and how Will and Joseph's grandfather discovered all about the Deadites and how to repel them through an unknown cult known as the Circle of the Wise Men. We are doing an exciting video on the cult, so hit the bell icon and don't miss it. After the suffocating climax, Allie lit a cigarette before the mid-credits rolled in, and we saw Will's grandmother, who played a great comic relief in the movie, before turning into one of the most horrifying Deadite crawling on the road. Now, Granny was already using one prosthetic leg and was stuck on the wheelchair for most of the movie, but when she became a Deadite and attacked Alice, the fight caused her to lose her second leg, too. And now we had this old, scary as fuck looking woman pulling herself in the middle of the road with the blood leaving a trail behind till an ill-fated girl finds her and goes to help her. Of course, Granny Deadite wanted her legs, and though the scene cut to black with her saying, "Yours will do just fine," we know for a fact that the girl's life ended right there. Honestly, this mid-credits scene made no sense, but I can find two reasons as to why Vaniček decided to put it in. One, maybe Granny Deadite will pop up in some later Evil Dead movie like Jessica did, because she somehow managed to get out before the house went up in flames, and two, he wanted to use it as a really dark joke. And then we got to the post-credits. Let me walk you through the sequence first. We are taken back to the crematorium where Will's funeral took place, and the owner of the place moving a trolley of urns with her young daughter. She stored the remains of the deceased people on a shelf whose families never claimed them, and left the room while the little girl looked at the name tags on the urns. One of them read Christopher Leroy, and I couldn't remember the name being associated with the Evil Dead world. But the next name, yep, that's the game changer. Ellie Bixler. Almost immediately after the girl reads out the name, she starts feeling strange and begins calling out for her mother. A woman's voice is heard asking her not to be scared, and the face played by Alyssa Sutherland appears in the mirror. The one in the mirror was a normal-looking woman mimicking every movement of the girl, but the moment she touched the face and her little finger met the woman's, the lights flickered, and there she was behind the baby girl. A Deadite who touched her almost with a motherly park in her eyes before snapping it grotesquely and saying, "Mommy is back." So who is Ellie and why did she say Mommy is back? This is where we have to go back to Evil Dead Rise's story. If you noticed, I already mentioned Ellie's name. She was a single mother living with her 3 kids, Bridget, Cassie, and Danny. Her husband had left them, and Ellie was now tasked with the responsibility of running the family and lived in an apartment in Los Angeles. Beth visited her after finding out about an unplanned pregnancy, and the 2 sisters tried warming up to each other after a long time. Suddenly, an earthquake hit, and Danny discovered a hidden chamber underneath the apartment's parking lot. And as with all Evil Dead movies, this was the trigger point because, of course, Danny found photographs and religious artifacts, and surprise, surprise, a strange book. He also found a priest's recording which revealed the book to be one of the 3 volumes of the Naturam Demento. And it was done. The family was attacked by Deadites, and one by one, Ellie, Danny, and Bridget all turned, and by the end merged together to become a grotesque, multi-lined creature known as the Marauder. Even the neighbors got possessed, and Beth ultimately had to dismember the Deadites, including her sisters, to kill them. When she was leaving with Cassie after the harrowing incident, Ellie's severed head mocked her that she will never be a good mother, provoking her to kick her into the chipper. But even after all that, Ellie came back in the closing credits of Evil Dead Burn. And the motherly shushing or the split of second kindness in her eye might be justified as Ellie's trapped consciousness of a grieving mother. Honestly, I don't have an absolute answer as to what happens to a person's soul after the Kandarian demon takes control of it, but there have been instances where we saw the human part light up even while possessed. Remember, when a possessed Ash saw Linda's necklace, his humanity was awakened, and he tried to break free briefly. Yeah, that happened, but then again, when Kelly was possessed in Ash vs. Evil Dead, she had no memory at all. So it most likely depends on willpower, and I'm inclined to believe Ellie's sense of a mother was still there, very deep down, and fought hard. Moreover, even if it was not the memory of losing her children, it could have been a grudge of losing Cassie to her sister, who seemed to be of the same age as the girl in the post-credit. And that's where the mommy is back hits harder, because the Deadite Kelly clearly did not like her sister leaving with her daughter. Wait, there might be another Easter egg in this line. It could be a reference to the "Mommies with the maggots now" quote from Evil Dead Rise, when Cassie asked if it's her mom after Ellie's Deadite form sprang onto the ceiling from the bathtub. But the bigger question bothering fans is not why Ellie came back, but how. See, right from The Evil Dead and throughout every sequel and the TV series, the demonic force has always possessed living people and transformed them into Deadites. That established logic that the only way to stop a Deadite was to completely destroy its body through dismemberment or complete demolition. Because once the host has been destroyed, the demon has to leave and either lie dormant or possess someone else. Before this, the Evil Dead franchise never portrayed Deadites as ghosts, and nor did they show that the demon continues to appear in the form of a previous host after that body is gone. And that's why people are calling out the scene to be a contradiction of the long-established lore rules. To an extent, I understand it, and yes, it may feel like a forced attempt to bring back an iconic character and further connect the movie to its predecessor beyond the Jessica element. But there's actually an in-universe explanation to how Ellie's Deadite came back, and it's hidden in the priest's recordings used in Evil Dead Rise. If you listen to it carefully, you'll hear the priest saying that even after he led the Deadite to the shed and set them on fire, they danced in the flames and enjoyed the burns, meaning fire could not finish them off. He then buried the corpses in consecrated earth, but they rose again, and this time he had only one option left: complete bodily dismemberment. The priest hacked and chopped, like how Beth used a chainsaw to behead the marauder. However, the priest stated very clearly that he failed, and that nothing can stop this demonic force. Even its final remnants will come after you. The only way was to run from this horror, because it won't stop until evil be thy name. And then we even got Jessica being possessed right after the massacre. I guess Evil Dead Rise set it up pretty clearly that the book used in that book was ultra malicious, and the resulting Deadites don't follow the same rules. Cronin himself said that the book he used in Rise was a little different, and in his own words, they might have slightly different edges to them in terms of what they can do, and there's a little subtle change or two to the incantations. That would further justify why the Deadites wanted the Kandarian dagger so badly in this movie, because the only way to stop even the most powerful and virtually immortal Deadites is that dagger. It's possible that this new trilogy that will be rounded up with Evil Dead Wrath will finally bring together all the chapters and usher in a new age of rules that apply to the Deadites. Alright guys, that's all for today. I guess the post-credits scene is not looking like complete nonsense anymore, and if anything, it has given us a reason to go back and watch Evil Dead Rise. And for a matter of fact, Ellie showing up makes absolute sense and ties in perfectly with Burns' quest for the dagger. There, I said it. Jump in the comments below to tell us your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.